Hey, what's good everybody? This is your boy Ced Banner, and this is my review of Ready Player One. Go ahead and start it off with how I always start it off when we have a film adaptation of a novel. This film is a novel adaptation. I believe it's very loosely based. We all know, of course, I haven't read the novel, I'm not going to, but I did read kind of an overview of it, and I've read some reviews of some people, some viewers who were fans of the novel. And the film does take a lot of liberties. So if you are a fan of the novel Ready Player One, don't go seeing this film expecting to see the book on. Been looking forward to this one like a lot of people because it is, of course, directed by the great Steven Spielberg, and it's always great to see, you know, his fantasy works on screen. I will say that he gives us a lot of his signature style in here, thankfully, when it comes to the visuals. The special effects are top notch, the next level, and his special effects are always so crisp and clean. You know, there's not a lot of distortion on the screen, even though I will say in this film, a lot of the action scenes, the battles, the races, the fights that are going on, it's beautiful because you can look in one corner of the screen and there's something happening here, and simultaneously there's something else that looks cool happening in the opposite corner. It's kind of all over the place, but very far as casting goes, it's kind of half and half. You have a lot of relatively unknowns to most, and we have some familiar faces. Simon Pegg. We have the lead character is Parzival is played by Ty Sheridan, who I don't think I've seen anything before. If I did, I didn't know who he was. Lena Waithe, who is really rapidly gaining fame as she won an Emmy for her role in the Netflix series Master of None. And then, of course, who I think is hilarious, T.J. Miller plays a character, sort of a villain named I-Rock. Who really kept the film going. So there's kind of a lot going on here because the film at its heart is a family film, and that kind of took away from it for me. At this point in my life, it's hard for me to watch family-based films. I can't even watch animated films, really. You know, I gotta have some kind of edge. I gotta have some kind of darkness in there or something. If it gets too Disney-like, I kind of lose interest. This film doesn't go too far in that direction, thankfully, but it does waver, you know, in that direction quite often throughout its 2.5 hour. The plot is pretty straightforward. You know, this is one of those plots where you can take a lot from it as far as what was actually being said. There are, of course, some political jabs and parallels there. None of them were real heavy-handed, in my opinion, so it didn't take away from the film. Surprisingly, and you know, you can let me know if you see differently when you watch it, but I noticed kind of a lot of jabs coming at the prison system, which I was shocked by and impressed with. And then, of course, there are a lot of parallels with how much time we now spend on social networking, Twitter, Facebook, and how that kind of becomes our life, separating the virtual from the reality. I all thought those were great messages, especially for the youth, being, you know, that it is a family film. And for those of us who are older, you know, I think there are some messages in there that are worth taking. Biggest pros for the film, first and foremost, like I said, special effects. Great. This is an eye candy film, and if you can see it in IMAX, I think this is one worth watching just to see the action, the special effects. I mean, everything from the Iron Giant to King Kong to Chucky. Some very fun scenes to watch. The acting was good. You know, it wasn't great, but it was good. It was good enough. And the pacing, of course, I always talk about pacing. The pacing I thought was fairly solid for a 2.5 hour film. I did not hate the pacing, but I did. I think my last pro for Ready Player One would be the composition, the score. Unfortunately, it was not done by John Williams, which is what I was kind of hoping with this being Spielberg's return to the fantasy genre. However, it wasn't really lacking. It was nice composition, nice background, really elevated a lot of the scenes. And a lot of nice throwbacks to the 80s, which I think the adult crowd will especially. And my biggest cons for the film, the first one, I would have to say, I felt like character development for the most part was lacking, and because of that, I never really felt invested in the characters and a lot of the plot. You know, like I said, there were a lot of scenes and a lot of parts that I thoroughly enjoyed, But overall, I just never really felt a connection or a reason to care about what was happening to these characters. And that was an unusual feeling to have during the final big con for the film branches off of the previous. Because of that lack of character development, not having that connection, it caused the film to feel like it was lacking overall. As beautiful as the special effects and the action was, the complete package, I just never really felt connected, and it always felt like, especially in the latter half, the final act of the film, like something was really missing. And once again, when you're dealing with Spielberg, you're not really expecting that. I usually find myself a lot more invested in what's going on. I never really felt that way during this film. So that's really all I have to say about it. My rating for Ready Player One is nice to look at, but not memorable. Eye candy if you want to go spend 2.5 hours in theater and just enjoy some very nice special effects and have a little fun, especially if you have children and want a little family entertainment. This film, I think, is pretty good for that, but it does feel lacking. I think it will for the adult crowd, and those who read the novel, from what I've seen and heard, you're going to feel like it's lacking as well. So I hate to say it, but it's not really a must-see. It's cool to watch, but it's not something you have to rush out to see it. That concludes this review of Ready Player One. My next review I'll do this weekend for Tyler Perry's new film with Taraji P. Henson. So until the next review, hey.